Hello there, outliers. Niiamah Ashong here, and thank you so much for letting us be a part of your journey here. I have to call out, like, a part of me is laughing. It's like if you're watching the video, you might see me like just like holding back, like fall, just cracking up. And the reason for that is that whenever I hit record, I count down right before I hit record, and in my mind, I hear the song Tank from Cowboy Bebop, which was it's an anime. It has a really awesome like start, and there's an element that goes like 3, 2, 1, let's go, or 3, 2, 1, let's jam, right? And so I hear that every time I'm about to start the podcast, and I realize I stopped myself from saying it. I stopped myself from saying jam. Every once in a while you'll hear it, but I stopped myself. And what occurred to me as I was holding back, my awareness came in and said, "Whoa, you're for someone who's so free, open, that looks at and saying like, how can you just be with people and let them see all of you? You're holding this part back from you." And as the record icon was coming on, I realized I was like, oh, I don't need to hold this back. Like this could be something fun in our community. This could be something here where every time I come in, I'm like, let's jam, outliers, let's play. And so that's the expression that is taken off within me. And uh, in I don't want to hold that back. I don't want to hold that back. So uh, I'm glad to be in space with you. And I talk about I in this case here, but I'm the real thing here is like we are like glad to be in space with you because we have an incredible roundtable outliers who like they don't mess around when it comes to leadership. They don't mess around when it comes to changing the way that things are and continuing to up level themselves and their business and the people that they serve as a result of it. So why don't we give you a chance to get to know these incredible outliers? Annalyn, let's start off with you. Why don't we, would you mind sharing with us more about you and the game you're currently playing?
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me again. My name's Annalyn Cruz. I'm in Oakland, California, proud Oaklander for the past almost 20 years. And I'm a dream life and leadership coach for women of color. I that's who I tend to serve in my private coaching business. And I am really passionate and interested in supporting folks who are really trying to find that dream life for themselves, to figure out who they are outside of all the external noise, whether that is family, media, culture, work that they think they need to do. And I'm really interested in figuring out who are they at their authentic core and at the soul of themselves. And so I often serve women who have these really big dreams that in many ways they feel like it's not possible. So for me, I like to think of myself as um, a sort of guide and a co-creator with them in exploring what else is possible. What else is here that they may think is too big, but actually when I'm like sitting or across from them on the Zoom, I'm like, of course it's possible because it's here, right? It's in your consciousness. And not only have you dreamt about this, but so have your ancestors as well. So are the people cheering for you on every single day. And so if I could continue to lift people up, particularly BIPOC women of color who really do need that champion alongside them, then I feel like I could sleep well at night.
Yeah, let's play this game here, Annalyn. Um, thank you for doing the work that you do. I think what got me was there's a lot of things in what you said that got me. One of the things that really called to me was like, what's possible? And I would love to have this conversation be a representation of that. Wherever we go, wherever we take the conversation, we can have like the normal conversation, or we can have this conversation in and of itself be a representation of what is possible for us when we choose to play the game of what is possible. Y'all down for that, by the way? Yeah, I'm seeing some nods. I'm seeing some
Yeah,
nods.
absolutely.
All right. Well, absolutely, Gerard. Why don't we let outliers get to know you? Would you mind sharing more about you and the game you're currently playing?
So, Dr. Jerod Phillips, I'm going by Jerod on this podcast, current school leader at the elementary level. And the game I'm playing is just trying to up the level of confidence and the ability to get after different things as educational leaders in the education space where we're changing the narrative and not leading scared. Like, I'm the leader that wants to build teams where I'm bringing in teachers, I'm bringing in assistant principals, I'm bringing in reading coaches, math coaches that had a skill set in the classroom where they were constantly overlooked. People may not have seen their value, but me seeing something different in them, bringing them on as a part of a team and building a dynamic team. Something about Annalyn's work with BIPOC women of color, myself, a lot of opportunities that I've been afforded and my trajectory have been because um, BIPOC women have saw something in me where other people didn't and gave me opportunities. Like, just women in general, every from teacher to dean of students to assistant principal to principal, and then the principal role I'm in now. Each one of those steps, the major decision makers in those steps were women. And they saw some skills in me that the men and other people didn't see. So like that was just my journey, just the way it went. And they were fearless with going against the grain to give me a chance. So I just embody that of I'm not going to lead scared because somebody didn't lead scared with giving me a shot where they could have backfired because I was a nobody. Like nobody on the panel really knew me. They just like something about him. We're gonna give him a chance. So I'm just out here trying to pay it forward and change this narrative in education because it's not all bad. We do the best work that we do for kids, and it's fun every day. So that's the game I'm playing.
Ooh. But fun times here, fun times
Yeah.
around. Like, I love that. I love that component of someone seeing something in you, and then like, and what I got from there was like even more than what you might have seen for yourself. You're like, I showed up,
Mhm.
but like they brought even more to it than even I was allowing myself to see. Am I getting some of that right?
Yep, you are absolutely right.
Yeah, yeah. Like so, like this is. I appreciate you presence in this in our conversation because, I like to look at like outliers and make sure that as we have our conversation, we're staying true to why are we doing this? Like, why are we here, right? And I think, and like in the conversation we have, my whole goal is to see you, to celebrate you, and to value you in the way that like other people can see, celebrate, and value themselves as well. So. I'm glad to see how I'm looking forward to see how we choose to play with this year. All right, Jerod, you got me on here with like the not lead scared, right? I think it's a cool way to look through here. So when you're thinking about not leading scared, I get curious about for both of you here about some of the things you're taking on that actually do scare you right now. Like, what are the things that you're taking on where you're like it gives you sweaty palms, like you're excited, you know what it is, but it is not like it's not like that thing where we can like sit back, button up, and say, well, 3 years ago when I took on this huge project, here goes the win. You're like in the middle of it right now. You're like, I don't know how this thing's gonna go, but I'm going for it. I'm going all in. Any of y'all want to get us started and just share a bit of what you have going on that might be fitting in that and how you're navigating it?
Ladies first.
Oh, thank you. So, one of the things that I've been really thinking about is how has my business continued to have its own evolution and in many ways its own revolution, right? Like, I think that when I started my business in 2021, I was just out of my corporate job. I was sort of thinking, like, well, this is the way you then do business, right? Like, I just will take this outside of a company and keep doing the same things. And I realized after all these years that that's no longer serving me. So part of what I want to sort of call in, bring in more is the spiritual side, the woo, the witchiness. I know we talked about that the other day in terms of how do we sort of embody and connect to not just like this sort of 3D plane, but again, like how are we tapping into spirit, the universe, ancestral healing, energy work, and how do I combine that with what I already know will sell. Does that make sense? So it's like I want to create parts of my business that that feels more authentic to me. That, and I don't exactly know what that looks like. I don't have a list of, I have lots of ideas, but I don't have a menu of what this is exactly going to be. And so part of the trusting and part of the fear around this is, okay, I'm just going to keep myself open to whatever feels most aligned to me at this point in my life. And I think from there, once that gets a little more clear, then the soul clients will come along who are down for the ride. But I'm not here to serve everybody. And that's something that I've learned over time that, I think in the beginning I was trying to do that or thought I should do that in order to make the most money. But it's not even about that, because if I go in that direction, then I'm always going to be chasing something that's not authentic to me. And so I'm sort of in this discovery phase of how do I, take what I've already done, because I'm not trying to throw it away completely, but I'm trying to infuse parts of myself now that has really shifted in the past, 3, 4, 5+ years, and really hold my own integrity with that process. And as a result, I just trust that whatever will come through will be the best thing that I offer potential clients or those that I'm even currently serving.
Annalyn, I'm glad you brought this in here. And Jerod, I'm going to come to you on the same initial question here, but uh, just know, I would love to explore it, because I'm finding myself also asking myself questions that where it's like I know who I was when I was really doing this business back in 2019, and then for 3 years my path kind of veered, and then I got really serious. I started bringing in numbers and math, and how do I bring all these things back together in a way that is not just in a way that is also economically viable. Right. I talk about being seen, celebrated, and valued. Part of the reason I talk about valued is not just about the feel goods value, but being paid for what it is, getting being promoted, getting hired, taking on different clients. To me, that is a really wonderful way of playing in the game of value, not about your own self-worth, but about bringing that out into the world. So just you've sparked some things in me, Annalyn. We probably want to go and explore that in a bit. All right.
Cool.
Thank you. Jerod, curious for you, what tell us about the thing right now that you could be leading scared in, since you're not leading scared. What's one of those things where you could be leading scared right now? Help us see what you're creating.
So I think I'm on the panel with the right people because Annalyn said something that really hit on an area, and I'm just going to go with it. When she said, I'm not here to serve everybody, that is the area that I used to have some doubt in, because as I'm, doing breakout sessions at conferences, speaking at conferences, um, getting into some keynote work, I know that, my business, the work I want to do outside of being a principal in that realm is going to expand, clients coming. But I understand that if a school district brings me in, or education organization brings me in, if the way they're heading and the way I'm heading, no matter how lucrative, because I don't have any contracts coming, I'm just really getting it started, because everything I do is school based in my current role. But I do see the need in our field to branch out into that work. So I'm putting some stuff in the atmosphere, and I know when things start coming, like if a contract is dangling in front of me, but that organization or that school district is going in a different direction than what I'm about, with not leading scare and changing the narrative, and it's an organization that is cool with the status quo, and I'm coming in just to fulfill a professional development budget to check a box. I'm not going to be the one that you want to come in, because if I'm coaching your leaders, your assistant principals, they're going to be giving you some professional pushback in some areas that are in a professional manner, not grandstanding, but they're going to say, hey, we've been doing this since before COVID, and it's not serving all kids in our district. how about we try this? How about for a conference, how about we bring in an Annalyn Cruz where we're always bringing in someone that doesn't have her lens? So I know that's an area that I've been hesitant on, and I've really had to, you know, put on my hat, my boots, and all that, and just get after like getting that pass of realizing that I'm not here to serve everybody. I'm going to put out my brand, don't lead scared, changing the narrative, and where it falls is where it's meant to fall. And then Annalyn also said something that wrote down. She said in the past, she was chasing something that was not authentic to her. Just this past summer, I presented at the National Principals Conference with three of my brothers one guy, one of my brothers from Michigan, and the other two from Minnesota. We all presented together, and the feedback that we got from people that attended our session was, we need more of this, because all four of you guys, when you presented, neither four of you were throwing out the buzzwords, the education, the things everybody here. Like, y'all were talking real life stuff that leaders go through, and that just reinvigorated the. I don't need to be the cliche person, or I'm just gonna be me, and my clientele base or niche is going to be my niche. So I don't know, that way you kind of threw me a nice little torch on this one.
I'm
That's
glad
awesome.
to help out.
Well, let's keep playing with this here, because I think like in the way that I have this conversation is like there's structure, but the structure comes in the sense of like y'all are really good at what you do, which like you hold space for people. You know how to like challenge thinking. Like you host your own different things. So like I guess I want to leave room for us to just like play out, and don't worry, like I'm good. I'm gonna follow Jerod's advice. I'm not gonna lead scared here today. So like if there's any place where I'm like I gotta pull it back in, I will, but like let's just see where things go. So there's a couple things here that are like really coming up for me, Jerod, when you talked about what I get about you is that like your brand right now, it's so strong that it's like there's a part of me that almost sounds like a cognitive dissonance. This, if I could say like I'm like, huh? How could they possibly think that they would hire you and that you would like lead in like the more scared way? It's literally in the tagline, right?
Yep.
It'd be like coming to Outliers Edge, and they're like, well, I'm looking for a lot more like average and proven and just like very, very normal, I'm not really looking to try and take any risks. I'm like, y'all, it's in the name, like that's not, you don't come to me for that. And so Gerard always coming to me was like, when people recognize like your clients being the people who recognize that, like, oh wait, hold on, like we need to lead something into the future here. Like we can't be like, and what has gotten us here was leading scared. And we need someone that can actually come and shake things up for us. I love that you're like staying in the education world and playing that. I have a number of people in my world that are like educators, and leaders in the education world, and like very like good at what they do. Um, and like the space needs it, man. The space needs it. Yeah. What do you get when I put that back to you?
That's to me, I just a spirit of affirmation of don't deviate, just keep enhancing, growing, and knowing that the right people will realize, yeah, if we bring him on to do some work, all of our ideologies and thought processes on the way we do things will be professionally challenged, put into the space, and then coming back to, okay, this is how we were doing it. This is what he's helping us rumble with. Let's try A, let's try B. Or another thing is looking at your district or your organization and seeing those on the front lines that have been trying to get into leadership, that have kind of like keep hitting brick walls and saying, you know what, they're still hanging around for a reason. They're not bashing the organization. They're doing good work. They're coming to work every day, but they just haven't landed in that role interview after interview. Let's find something for them and get their feet wet rather than just bypass them. Then you look up and then they go to another district organization and then they're thriving when they could have been in your district thriving. I think
Mm.
looking at how we grow, get better, and keep the right people on board.
Yeah, nice. I don't know what's coming up for you with any part of this conversation.
I think what I'm thinking about is that piece around what does it mean to be an authentic leader in your own business
Mm.
and in your field. And sometimes that can feel lonely, I think, right? Like where if you're not like everybody else, it's like, okay, so how am I different? How am I going to stand in that truth and still put out what I'm going to put out? And whatever that means, whether it's a keynote or, a facilitate experience or one-to-one coaching. Um, I think for me, I know when I'm in that place of that groundedness and certainty of like, yeah, I know who the I am, who the
Yeah,
F I am, right?
yeah.
And this is what you're gonna get as a result. And I don't have to fit this box of what you think, whatever that is. Again, it's like those are the clients or those are the people we're meant to serve.
So, Annalyn, like as you're talking, like this is it's. I'm really grateful for both of you. Firstly, one of the reasons I'm grateful for both of you is that you are clearly professionals and like at the top of your games and what you do. And and what I get here is like while we're talking about how do you show up as an authentic leader, both of you have decided we're just going to show up in this conversation that way, right? I got to have a lot of these conversations, and so one of the things that I see is like sometimes I'm like, let's just get into like what you're actually thinking, and it's very easy to come on and like posture or to only speak from a place of knowing, right? But both of y'all are like being super open and honest about like these are the things we're figuring out right now. And the cool part about it is I'm figuring it out too. Like like if I had the chance to go spend time with someone and be like, what are y'all doing with this? How are y'all thinking about this? Like, it's exactly the kind of conversation I want to have. So I just want to just really just acknowledge you all, firstly, on like demonstrating the authentic leadership overall. And what it's done for me is that it's pulled me even more in. I'm like, oh yeah, we can hang. Like, cause you don't have these questions unless you're doing your own path. You know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like I see it, I'm like, you get it. You get it. So like given that we get it, like what do we do with this? Right.
Mhm.
So I want to make sure I state that here. And outliers, if you don't have these kinds of conversations going on in your world, or you want like there's someone in your world that would like benefit from a conversation like this, go let them know, share this episode with them because like this is it. This is the kind of like expansion that we get to have. Annalyn, there was something that if you don't mind me putting something here, a reflection that came to me when you were talking here, which is like I heard you talking about like it felt like you're like I'm looking for like the clarity. And once I know the clarity, then people will know. Well, like then I will know how I can show up for them, and they will know what their purpose and everything will kind of align. Um, and what was really was that I'll just share what was coming to me was I'm like, what's cool about you? We're still getting to know each other, but what's cool about you is that who you are, like it shines through. Like so it's almost like it's like you could say whatever you want to say about what you offer. However, Annalyn, like their identity and personality and the way that you think about it shouts so loudly that like the actual like what is the right thing like it's
Yeah.
too hard to acknowledge. Like I'm like you can go spend your time working on it. I'm sure like there are people out there that will sell you into that thing, but like you show up right now, and I think people get that they get you. I'm curious, like if
Yeah.
that makes any sense here. I saw Jerod like in there. What is your take on that, Annalyn?
What came up for me was thank you for that because I actually take that as a huge compliment because sometimes when I work with certain folks or if I'm like consulting or whatnot, the leader's like, I don't know why I don't feel connected to my team. And I'm like, because they don't know who you are. You keep putting this air about you that is blocking who you really are as a human being in this world. And that's what they want to see, right? And so for myself, I say this in all my workshops, it's like, who you see me as your facilitator, as your guide today, is like who you're going to see on the street if you bump into Annalyn Cruz in Oakland or wherever I be, you know, it's like that's who you're going to get. And again, that comes back to my value of authenticity of I spent so long like getting to this point in my life, not just my business, not just my career. Like you talked about, Niiamah, about like the importance of working on ourselves. I continually do that. Like that is just my lifelong sort of journey in this space, which again can feel lonely if you're not surrounded by other folks who are doing the same work on themselves and wanting to figure out who am I now? What do I want now? Like, how do I, continue to evolve so that I'm doing the work that I tell my clients what to do or to invite them into, right? And so for me, like as a coach who's doing this work of you know development and like figuring out like yeah who am I now and what type of dream life am I trying to serve up for myself, if I'm not doing that for me, how am I going to do that for someone else, or how can I stay in my own integrity if I'm not working on my own stuff and talking about it too, right? Like I think this is such a refreshing conversation. Be like, I don't have all my shit together. Hell no. Like, sure. I appreciate you saying that we're on top of our game. And I do feel that way, right? Like I feel valuable and competent. And then there are days where I'm like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing, or like, I don't know where this is going completely. I have an idea. And I think it's important just for those of us who are in these leadership capacities that we have these conversations with each other, and to be in BIPOC spaces to have these conversations with each other and to be like, yo, I got you, like I just met you, but like I'm here to support you too, because we need that. That's what's coming up for me.
Yeah, no, I'm just I want to just let that like percolate here. Um, yeah, I'm feeling really energized. I'm not gonna lie, and not only am I feeling energized, I'm also thinking about like what you talked about earlier, where you talked about you specifically talked about having like BIPOC women and creating experiences and connections for them. And but like just being in space with you and seeing what you're doing here, and like I'm like, oh, you are creating this. The general sense I have is like if you're putting any extra work toward figuring this out, like I don't think you need to, because like it's already here and it's carrying along with you. Like I literally was just like I'm like, oh, this is what it's like. This is what it's like to be in your space. Like there's things about you that you choose to hold the conversation differently. So we have a different conversation, you know? And I
Yeah.
like, I don't know, I like, again, I do this a lot. So like, I get a chance to be able to see, I'm like, this is an outlier amongst outliers. This is fun, you know? And so I really want to just like make sure I call it in, like, hopefully you're able to, you're receiving that in whatever whatever it is. But like, yeah, that feels good for me. Jerod, like, curious, like, what are you seeing? What are you feeling? What is this bringing up for you, right now?
So what this is bringing up for me was when you I like that compliment you gave us about us being on top of our game, and then Annalyn talked about working on ourselves and maybe not having it all. I want to say I think the reason why we're going to come off as being on top of our game, because being on top of our game also means we know our weaknesses and deficiencies. Like I'm thinking of the teachers I serve. If any of them came to me, like if I lined all of them up and they all just said, I said, you got one statement to say, what do you think one of my weaknesses are? And they told me, my response back could be, all right, know that weakness. This is what I'm doing to work on it. Like if my weakness is um communicating on upcoming dates, my comeback would be, yes, when I first arrived here to school, if there was a rubric on 1 to 5 where 5 is the principal is above grade level in the communicating about upcoming dates, I came in as a 1, but now I'm at a 2 trending towards a 3, because these are the things that I've read or I've seen other leaders do that I've stole and incorporated in my practice. So I think And I'm real big on telling people, like, I know I've run across a lot of people that say, I'm really not into reading books. My first comeback is, what do you want to work on, and find a podcast that fills your bucket in that area? And I think leaders like us do that. Like, I'm going to go find an episode in the Outliers. Like, okay, I'm dealing with trust issues. Like, if there's some trust issues going on in my staff, and I don't have all the tools to mediate that, I might come to the Outliers podcast and, oh, Niiamah had somebody on that talked about that. Boom. I don't have time to read a whole 300-page book on it, but I definitely, from if I'm taking my kids to a practice and it's a 30-minute drive, I definitely got time to throw that on and grow in that practice. And I think that's what that, when you gave us that company, that's what that did for me, of being on top of our game, is never always knowing that there's an area to improve on, but also having a game plan to improve upon it. And something Annalyn said that I definitely want to talk about, when she gave the example about the leader that said, I really don't feel connected to my team. And you said they about they don't know who you are. I think a lot of times I'm saying leaders get caught up in, for staff to know you, mean that you got to go out and hang out with them. And sometimes it might always be feasible for who you serve, but by them getting to know who you are, is the key thing I found out for staff to get to know you are, is if you're putting something out that needs to be done, even though sometimes people say, well, I'm in charge and I shouldn't have to go that in detail. A lot of times, if you're putting an initiative out, if you spend the extra time to give the why behind, like, so if I'm putting out 3 initiatives within the course of 2-3 months, if every time I put that initiative out, I'm giving a detailed why behind it and some things I've read about and research, that's how they really will feel connected. Because they're like, okay, I still might not agree with Jerod making this decision, but at least he gave me some context to it. And then some teachers may go look up that context and say, hey, Jerod, I read what you was talking about, and I see where you're going. But in that, have you thought about A, B, and C? My ears are perked up, and I'm gonna listen to that teacher, because I'm like, now, where they were stagnant, now I'm turning them into a professional learner. So I may even bend or give a little on one of my initiatives in 1 or 2 areas that serve what they just researched, because they've proven that they challenge my own learning by countering what they're learning, and boom, we winning. So that's what that did for me.
Thank you for that, Jerome. Thank you for that. Like, y'all are having me play in this place here, and I think I really like want to call out, like, what's really been really fun is to be able to be in this space with you and be like, hey, just so you know, I don't know where this is all going. I don't like, but it doesn't mean I don't know what I am doing, you know? And
Mhm.
there's a difference in that element, the element of um, uh, I remember for years like feeling bad because I don't plan. I rarely plan. I like, but I build, but I rarely plan. It's more like ready, fire, aim, in that regard. I can do it. Yeah, I do think about like I'm like my poor managers who like had to deal with me back in the day. So if any of y'all listen to this, my bad. I'm sorry. I recognize what I've been. But one day it came to me and I was talking to someone and they're like, you need to plan. And I was like, but why? I trust myself. Right now, there's stuff that happens when you're working with other people and like trying to make sure that from a leadership perspective, they are able to be successful in what they're doing. I'm not really talking about it from that perspective, but there was something that like came in there for me in that moment where I was just like, oh, a deep knowing of like throw me in a situation and like I'm actually I'm more capable in the real timeness of it all than in the having everything planned out and having like being in a specific environment. So um it's almost like if I do have all my shit together, then I probably am in the wrong place. Like if I do that there, then I have stopped growing, you know? And it's a weird way to like I would say weird and just like a more neutral kind of thing. Like, but like it's a weird way to be where it's like the moment that everything's all lined up is like I'm not trying to blow it up for the sake of blowing it up, but it's like I'm on a growth journey, and wow, this was coming into me like I don't say this as much very often, but like if there was a sentence that like described me or my way of thinking, it's like I'm not supposed to be here, right?
Mhm.
When I think about like statistically, of all like I grew up in what I would call like the 3% club. 3% of the people working in tech were African American. 3% of the people in that were actuaries were African American. Like, and yet I just kept showing up. I was just there, and I'm like, I'm not supposed to be here. So like in my mind, I've already gone way farther than any idea that I would have ever thought of myself, especially the 17-year-old version of me. And so like every day it becomes a thing of being I don't know what else is possible yet. I'm out there to just keep growing, keep checking in. Um, y'all just got me talking. Usually I just come and I ask questions. Y'all got me like you have me into here. Annalyn, what's coming through you? Oh, yeah, what's coming through you as I say this?
Oh, I mean, what's coming through is the trusting yourself. Like when you
Mm,
mentioned that of the deep knowing of, I don't always have to plan A through Z. Maybe I might know A through C, A through D, if that,
yeah,
But I think that really shows, and I am kind of the same way. I run things that way too, where it's like I cannot strategically plan like 10 years from now. I know folks in their business who have the roadmap and they have all the things, but for me, that's almost like going too far ahead to be open to the evolution that just organically comes up and through. And so it's like, am I allowing myself to plan enough to have some sense of where I'm going? And am I open enough to the magic that will appear? Which I don't think, coming back to my woo is like, I don't think it's a coincidence. I don't believe in coincidences. I think everything is supposed to happen and unfold in its magic timing. So, yeah.
love it. Yeah, you just said timing, and I just realized that like we're at our time for today. Um, can I just say this has probably been like this conversation has been like it's been awesome being in space with you. Outliers, I strongly recommend that you go and spend more time in Jerod and Annalyn's spaces, because like this has been something that uh I will tell you the inner elements of this year. I'm like, this is a conversation I haven't had in a very long time, and I like to have conversations. So let's do this year, outliers. If since given this year, my ask is this: I have two questions to ask for you. One, if there's something in this conversation that's really struck you, would you mind going out and sharing this with your world here? We don't put any ads behind this. This podcast grows by word of mouth. And my general thing, Adeline, you talked about being like lonely and being alone along the path here. I would love for outliers to know that they're not alone. And one of the ways we can do this is to share the conversations that are taking place. The other thing I have here is that I actually also think about one person in your life. We call it the one person, one conversation at a time initiative. But there's probably someone in your life who like specifically would benefit from this. But if they just saw it like a Facebook share, they wouldn't get that it was meant for them. Would you mind just taking some time and just like sharing this episode with them? And I like to think of it as a gift of letting them know that you're thinking of them and that they're not out there alone and that you got their back. If you can do that, I honestly think that this is where the real impact is going to come from the conversation. Just the right person getting the right message at exactly the right time. All right. Awesome. So we're going to wrap up our conversation, y'all, and the way that we wrap up our conversation is I'm going to ask you to share two things. One, share your best contact info. Y'all have your different platforms and everything, so I'm sure that if outliers want to find you, they can find you in a lot of different places, right? But like if someone really wanted to go deeper down the journey with you, what would be the best way for them to go do that? So that's the first question. And then the second question here is related to an insight that you got from today's conversation. Like, how did you yourself grow as a result of this conversation? And if you didn't get an insight, that's fine. But like, don't worry about like making this a takeaway for outliers out there. They've gotten what they need to get from this. They're hearing they're listening between the lines and all that stuff. Like, really the real question is, and what insight did you get? So, Jerod, why don't we start off with you? Would you mind sharing with us the best way for people to continue down the journey with you and an insight that you got from today's conversation?
Best way to continue the journey with me is if you follow my Instagram. Um, my site is linked there, but I'm starting to do a lot of my reels and everything on there. So that handle is Doctor. So I'm gonna just spell it out. My handle for Instagram is D as in dog, R as in Robert, J-A-P as in Paul, Hillips 020722. So that's Doctor. So Dr. J.A. Phillips 0722 on Instagram and everything. You can link on from there. And the one thing that I gain, I'm a connector. So I feel as though I gain two new people in my space to regularly connect with, just beyond hearing them on a podcast, but just reaching out to them on a regular basis just to see how they're good, what's going on in your world, and who knows, like spaces that we're in, and there's a chance to pay it forward. That's what I gained. I feel as though I gained two new people in my world. Overall, that's my biggest thing right now.
Absolutely awesome. Thank you so much, Jerod. All right.
Mhm.
Annalyn, how about you?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram, grounded in wisdom. I know you asked for one, but you could also find me on LinkedIn, Annalyn Cruz.
Yeah,
Yeah.
true outlier. But like the ways you get now. The real thing is, I had people were going like 15 different ways. I'm like, if they want to
Oh,
find you,
no,
they
no,
will,
no.
they will Google you. I promise you. I
Yeah.
promise you. If someone wants to find you, they will find you.
Yes,
But
yes.
good. So you said Instagram and LinkedIn. Those are the two best
Instagram and
ways to link.
LinkedIn, Grounded in Wisdom for Instagram and Annalyn Cruz for LinkedIn. My insight, I think it's just a reaffirming of why it pays off to be authentic. And I felt the authenticity amongst the three of us, and I know that it's authenticity's magic, and whoever we're meant to serve is gonna pop up because we were ourselves. So I think I'm gonna just continue to stay with that and to know that that's what's important.
Well, I am truly grateful for each of you. Thank you so much for playing the game that you play. It's been an honor and a pleasure to be in space with you. And I just wish you all the best. And please keep doing what you do. All right, outliers. Until the next time we talk, remember to be you on purpose. Journey on.